Hi everybody, welcome. Today we will be doing this Luminary clay pumpkin, which it does have a little light in here. And so when it's dark, you'll be able to see your little jack-o'-lantern light up. All right, so let's go ahead and get started on our project. Today you have in your kit a jar, you have your tea light. I'm going to turn this one off. I don't need that on right now. And then your DOS clay from the other day, you should have a lot left over. Your clay roller tool, clay tool, probably looks a little different than mine. Paintbrush, and then you need your brown and orange paint today. Water. Miss Mel, could you go grab my water? I think I forgot to grab it. It's out there. Thank you. Water and paper towel just for cleanup. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. We are going to roll out a slab of clay that we can wrap around this guy. And I want you to notice too, when we build this, we are actually going to have the jar upside down so that it can sit on the bottom here and we can easily open that. If we were to build the clay all around here, then it would be hard to pull out the tea light because it's covered, right? So we're gonna do it upside down. All right, let's go ahead and get a generous amount of DOS clay. I have mine left over from the other day in another jar. And you probably want about half. We used about a third the other day. You could roll out the rest or just a little bit less because I don't think you're going to use it all. And we can go ahead and get started doing that. So this, I would say, is a softball size is what I'm starting with. If I don't use it all, then I can put it in my jar or in a Ziploc bag to use later. I'm gonna move some things off of here. Now, if you didn't have a clay roller, let's talk about some other things that you could use. Yesterday, we talked about using a water bottle. If you had a water bottle, you could use a jar. It just wouldn't need any writing on the side. Like you could use this even, just to kind of start rolling it. But we have PVC rollers. And I'm just gonna gently start rolling kind of a rectangle shape because I want it long, like my jar. I want it about this width of my jar. Let's go ahead. Ooh, it's tough because our roller's kind of small, yeah? But if we keep flipping over and over and gently applying pressure, getting everything out of the way, mine kind of looks like a foot. Looks like a foot. I'm gonna keep rolling it. And I want it kind of thin. I don't need it very thick. And I just keep flipping it over like a pancake and rolling and flipping. Why do I flip it over? I think to get it consistent on both sides. By doing that, it allows me to apply the pressure and work long ways and thin it out. And by flipping it, I'm getting almost the same thickness on both sides, treating both sides equally. It's getting long. The other reason you don't want to use a lot of clay is because this project could end up like super heavy too. You can tell the clay is very heavy. And we just don't need a lot. I'm gonna flip it. Looks like I'm pulling up some paint from the day before. This is air dry. We talked about that yesterday. So I'm just going to test it out right now and see how much I actually need. I'm going to go ahead and cut it because I don't need all of that. And I'll put this in my other jar because I know I don't need all of that. I want to save it. Okay. And the other thing I'm going to be mindful of is I'm going to do it right up until this shoulder right here, like the flat part, and to this kind of, the top is okay if I have a little overage because it'll fold over to the top. That's fine. But for this part, I'm going to go ahead and start rolling it. Sort of covers a little bit. That's okay. I feel like I could take this part and fill in there. So I'll just tear a little bit of that. And then I could build this around, right? Okay. I'm gonna unroll it again. Now I want to make my little pumpkin face. And I'm going to make it on the bigger part, not this skinny part, because that's going to be the back side. So I want it kind of in this center area right here. And I'm going to go ahead and make some big eyes. Pull that out. This is my clay tool. I could use the back of a paintbrush if I didn't have a clay tool. Just something that can pierce through the clay. And it looks really big, but when I pull it out, it's actually not as big as I thought it was going to be. And I'm just going to do 2 eyes and a nose. I found that trying to do a jack-o'-lantern mouth can be really, really tricky. So I'm playing it safe. And I am going to only do the eyes and nose. I feel pretty good about that. Now remember, the top is actually going to be the bottom. So I'm going to roll this on. Haha. And I love it. Looks like a mask. This side part, I'm just going to start pinching together. If you don't have enough clay on the sides, you can just grab a little bit of your excess and put it on. You can also kind of roll it to mash it in there a little bit, but be careful you don't destroy your eyes and nose too much. Now, as I'm working, I know that I have a lot down here. I want to make sure that it really doesn't disturb those threads. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on. I don't want to cover the bottom. I want to be able to take that on and off. So I'm going to push this down. And if I have too much blocking that section, guess what? I'll just take my little tool and just start to kind of cut it out. Cut it out. So I don't want it along that bottom. Excellent. Now I'm pressing it against the glass or the jar because I want it to be on there firmly. As I'm doing this, I'm molding the top part around the top. Now I need to fill in this gap right here, so I'm going to take the remainder of my clay and just start pinching it together. Now I also want to make a stem, and I've got a little excess here. Look how good that looks. Really happy with that. I'll show you guys how to fix this little seam part too in just a minute. Okay, so we want some sort of a little stem up here too, so you can make a little ball, lightly roll it to make a little, it looks like a rock, and we can just push that in on the sides. And you can use your little clay tool, or again the back of the paintbrush, to make that one. It's kind of fun when it's a little bit crooked off to the side, like it had just been pulled right off of the stem. And then I like to take, see, this is a little bit rough in here. I'm just going to take a little bit of water on my finger and just smooth it down. It's going to make the inside right here a little chalky because of the clay, like your hands are, but you can wipe that off later. Don't worry about it. I like to clean up those edges a little bit so you can't see where I sliced it. Just going to use my tool. And you know what? I've never seen a perfect pumpkin sculpture that anybody I know has ever made. So it doesn't need to be perfect. Adds character. Halloween is a perfect time for that kind of forgiveness because everything is a little tattered. Okay. So I've got my wonderful jack-o'-lantern face and his eyes and everything, but the thing that I believe makes it look more like a pumpkin, other than the color part, because of course the orange can totally make it look like a pumpkin, but I believe it's the texture of the pumpkin, the ridges in it, and so I've put those in this one, and I accented it with a little bit of brown paint. But I want to give it that texture of a pumpkin and really show those lines in it. And we do that often when we're drawing it in a picture. We draw the lines. So I want to show it on our actual sculpture. So now I want you to take either the back of your paintbrush or your little tool, and I want you to just lightly dig in, like a little bit of pressure, not where it's pulling up. See, I made some little ridges like that, but I just want it to be a little definition. So I'm just going to add a little water so I don't get that, and just lightly impressing in there a little line. And if you got any bumps, like when I first did it, and I'll show you again, it kind of pulled up some of the clay. You can just take your finger and lightly go in and kind of smooth out that ridge. Can you see that? Yes, right there. So we're going to go around the pumpkin and make those grooves several more times. Okay. Oh, that's a really good ridge. I'm going to wet it just a little bit and go in. And just, I'm not digging in so far to the plastic cut or jar, just barely making a little impression in the clay. And I like it when it goes to the very tippy top too. Makes that little ridge. Okay. Do a few more. I'm just taking a little bit of water first And then a little bit of that clay is coming up. I'm being very careful not to interfere with the bottom here. So I want to be able to open the bottom of that jar, put my tea light in there. This pumpkin has some great texture. My thumb kind of can make, my fingers can go in and kind of make those little ridges too, which is nice. See how I'm kind of pinching it. Working my way around the pumpkin. This is going to be really fun to paint. And I'll just keep working my way around. All right, guys, I have made my grooves, and I think you can really see some of them. Yes. And I'm okay that my pumpkin is a little misshapen. That's totally fine. I can go in and clean up some of that chalkiness in the eyes, but I'll probably wait until it's completely dry to finish that and cleaning up, and after I paint it too. I am gonna let this dry and then we will come back and paint it. Okay, it's probably gonna take about, I don't know, depending on how thick yours is. It might be best to wait till the next day. You could paint it while it's still wet, that's fine, but it just might be a little hard to handle. Okay, and before it dries, just make sure you can take your lid off and on. You don't want to seal that shut. Okay, so let's put this aside and we'll come back tomorrow and finish it up and paint it. Okay, everybody, now for the fun part. We are going to start painting our little clay pumpkin. And we'll go ahead and go down to my hands. Great. The two colors that we're going to use today are going to be the brown and the orange. I'm going to go ahead and start with the orange color. I can open it. There we go. First, I'm just going to paint the whole thing orange. So just straight into my paint. I did grab a brush that's a little bit bigger, just it makes it faster for me to paint. You can use your small one, totally okay, but a bigger brush, I can just cover a lot more surface faster. I like to paint the entire pumpkin orange first, and then I'm gonna go in with some brown to give it a little dimension and depth. So I can quickly cover this guy. If a little gray shows through, that's fine. It could act like a highlight even. I'm not putting the paint on thick. I'm just making sure I cover as much surface as possible. It doesn't take a lot though. A little bit at a time. You can see how great this is looking. Now, before this orange dries too quickly, I'm going to go in with a touch of brown and show you how you can start to make that dimension. You know, a lot of times we just think of a pumpkin as orange, but there's lots of other colors that are actually in a pumpkin when you look closely. There's some browns, there may even be some yellows sometimes. So this is the front part. still just a little wet. I'm now gonna take my brown and I'm gonna take a little bit of water. I did not change, like wash out the orange in my brush. There's just a little bit of orange in there, which is fine. And I'm barely taking a little bit of brown. And I'm gonna go along those ridges that we made. Now, if yours is way too dark, you can wipe off your brush and just start to paint and start to blend that brown in there. What that does is that darker color goes down in that ridge and creates kind of a little shadow. I have a lot on my brush, so I'm just gonna keep moving over to my two ridges that I have here. Looks a little scary. I'm gonna grab a little more orange and just go over it to blend it. But now my pumpkin is starting to come to life with a little bit of that brown in there and a little orange. If it's too overwhelming, please, by all means, just take a little bit of water and you can kind of rub it off a little bit. Now notice I'm going in this direction, up and down. If I go side to side, it's gonna change the way the pumpkin looks. So I wanna go along those edges and go up and down along the ridges. I'm gonna take a little bit of brown and put it inside that eye. Once the paint is dry, I will go in and clean up so there's no paint inside the plastic, because I want that light to shine through. But I also want to show some shadows around these noses and eyes. Check it out. I'll just take my paper towel and kind of wipe it off a little bit. Gonna go in. You know what, a Q-tip would work really great inside these eyes to clean that up so nothing's touching in there too. Okay, I'm gonna keep working my way around the pumpkin. Bigger brush definitely helps cover more surface quickly. And again, I'm going up and down with my brush strokes, taking a tiny bit of brown, going in those grooves. It's kind of scary and dark. I'll clean my brush off. I've got plenty on my pumpkin. Plenty of color on there to just blend. I'm actually mixing the brown and the orange, and I really like what that looks like. Look how pretty it looks, really natural, doesn't it? Then the top part, I want the stem to be, I want it to be brown. So I'm gonna paint that brown. Trying to be careful not to get it all over myself like I usually do. And then Miss Mel, can we move to the front so I can hold up? It's pretty wet, but I just want you guys to see what he looks like. And then once he's dry and I clean out those eyes, I am going to put in my little night lamp. And isn't this going to be cute sitting on my table or my nightstand? I can use it as a little night light for Halloween. All right, hope you guys enjoyed this project. Have a great day. Happy Halloween.